In part 1, we looked at what the Sumerian texts say about the Anunnaki, beings that came from the sky and walked among humanity. In part 2, we looked at how they withdrew, how the Bible echoes that withdrawal almost perfectly, and how the Book of Enoch describes them as not gone, but just waiting. Today we close the series with the question that has been underneath all of it from the beginning. What do the texts say happens next? But here's the thing that really struck me when I started researching this. It's not just the Sumerians who described a return. It's not just one tradition or one culture or one ancient text. It's all of them, separated by thousands of miles, thousands of years, different languages, different gods, different cosmologies. And yet every single one of them describes the same future event. Something that left or withdrew is coming back. And when you lay those prophecies next to what is happening right now in 2026, the question stops being whether you believe in ancient mythology. The question becomes whether you can afford not to pay attention. Let's start where we always start, the oldest written records we have. The Sumerian texts don't just describe the Anunnaki withdrawal. They describe what comes after it. And they are specific in a way that's genuinely unsettling when you read them carefully. The texts describe a future time, referred to in some translations as the end of a great cycle, when the conditions that led to the withdrawal would be reversed, when humanity would have reached a point of development significant enough to warrant a re-engagement. The Sumerian concept of time was not linear in the way ours is. They understood time as cyclical, great ages that repeat, each one ending and beginning again. The Anunnaki withdrawal was not an ending in their framework, it was a pause, a chapter break in a much longer story. Zecharia Sitchin, whose translations of the Sumerian text remain controversial but widely read, argued that the text described Nibiru, the Anunnaki homeworld or celestial body, as having a long elliptical orbit that brings it into proximity with Earth on a cycle of thousands of years, and that the return of the Anunnaki is tied directly to that orbital cycle. Mainstream astronomers reject this interpretation. There's no confirmed evidence of a large undetected body in our solar system on that kind of orbit. But here's what's interesting. In 2016, astronomers at Caltech announced credible mathematical evidence for a large undetected planet in our outer solar system, now commonly called Planet 9. It has not been directly observed, but the gravitational evidence for something large out there is considered serious enough that the search is ongoing. Now, I'm not saying Planet 9 is Nibiru. I'm saying that the Sumerians describe something in our solar system that we have not yet found. And we are now looking for something in our solar system that we have not yet found. Make of that what you will. Now let's look at what the two most extraordinary ancient texts ever written say about what comes next. The Book of Enoch, which we touched on in part 2, is one of the oldest Jewish texts in existence. It predicts most of the Old Testament in its current form, and it contains a passage that is extraordinary in its specificity. It describes the Watchers. It's named for the beings we've been calling the Anunnaki, as being bound and imprisoned, awaiting judgment at the end of an age. And it states plainly that at the appointed time they will be released, that their confinement is temporary, and their return will coincide with a period of tremendous upheaval on Earth, wars, signs in the sky, and events that will force humanity to confront what it has spent millennia trying to ignore. Now turn to the book of Revelation, the final book of the Christian Bible, written around 95 AD, and look at it not as theology, but as a descriptive account. It describes beings descending from the sky. It describes something falling from heaven, cast down to earth. It describes a period of global chaos preceded by signs that are visible to everyone simultaneously. And it describes at the end of that period a new order being established on earth by beings of extraordinary power. Mainstream Christianity reads this as the return of Christ in the final judgment. But read it alongside the Book of Enoch. Read it alongside the Sumerian texts, and a parallel narrative emerges that is difficult to separate from the ancient astronaut framework. Not because the theology is wrong, but because the descriptions themselves are so consistent across traditions that they appear to be describing the same sequence of events in different theological languages. Something withdraws, something waits, something returns during a period of global crisis, and everything changes after that. That is the Book of Enoch, that is revelation, and as we're about to see, it is also the Hopi. Of all the prophecies I researched for this series, the one that stopped me most completely was one I didn't expect. Not from Mesopotamia, not from the Bible, from the American Southwest. The Hopi people of northeastern Arizona have one of the oldest continuous cultural traditions in North America, and their prophecies, passed down orally for generations before being recorded, described a sequence of world ages, each one ending in catastrophe and renewal. The final age, the one the Hopi say we're currently living in, ends with what they call the return of the blue star Kachina, a blue star that will appear in the sky as a sign that the time of purification has arrived. Preceding this, they describe significant signs. Roads in the sky, interpreted by some as aircraft contrails. A gourd of ashes dropped from the sky that burns the land, interpreted by some as the atomic bomb. The sea turning black, interpreted by some as oil spills. And the return of the true white brother, a being or group of beings who left long ago and promised to return. Now I want to be careful here. The Hopi prophecies are sacred to their people and deserve to be treated with respect and not reduced to ancient astronaut talking points. The Hopi elders themselves have varied interpretations of what these prophecies mean, but the structure is identical to what we've seen everywhere else in this series. Beings who were once present, who left or withdrew, who promised to return, whose return is preceded by upheaval and signs in the sky, and whose return changes everything. The Sumerians in Mesopotamia, the authors of the Book of Enoch in Judah, the writers of the Revelation in the Roman Empire, the Hopi in the American Southwest. 4 traditions, 4 continents, thousands of years apart, telling the same story. So let's bring this all the way to the present, because this is the part of the series I've been building toward from the beginning. Every tradition we've looked at describes a return that is preceded by a specific set of conditions. Let's go through them. Signs in the sky that cannot be explained. We have declassified DoD footage of objects performing maneuvers that defy known physics. We have credentialed military witnesses testifying before Congress that non-human craft have been recovered. We have a sitting Senate Majority Leader saying publicly that UAP represent a national security issue unlike anything previously acknowledged. A period of global upheaval and instability. I don't think I need to make that case for you. The last several years have been characterized by a level of simultaneous global crisis, pandemic, conflict, economic instability, environmental events. This is historically unusual. A forced acknowledgement of something that was hidden. The UAP disclosure process, slow, reluctant, fought at every level, matches precisely what multiple traditions describe as a precursor to the return. Not a dramatic arrival, a gradual unveiling, a slow forcing of acknowledgement before the event itself. And finally, in the Sumerian text specifically, the return is described as happening at the end of a great cycle. The Sumerians used a calendrical system based on a 3,600-year cycle called a sar. By some calculations, and I want to be clear that these are contested, we are at or near the end of one of these cycles now. I'm not telling you the Anunnaki are returning. I'm not telling you the Book of Revelations is about to unfold. I'm not telling you the blue star Kachina is coming. But what I am telling you is this: 4 ancient traditions, with no known contact between them, all describe the same sequence: presence, withdrawal, a period of signs and upheaval, and then return. 3 of those 4 stages have already happened exactly as described, and we are in the 4th. When I started this series, I had one simple question: what do the Sumerian texts actually say? What I found was something I didn't expect. Not one tradition, but dozens. Not one text, but hundreds. All pointing in the same direction. All describing the same arc. All written by people that had no way of coordinating their stories, and yet coordinated them anyway. Maybe that's because they're all drawing on the same source. A shared human memory of something that actually happened. Events so significant that they were burned into the cultural memory of every civilization that experienced them, and passed down through stone tablets, through scripture, through oral tradition, until they reached us. The question this series has been asking from the beginning is not whether you believe in ancient aliens. That's too small of a question. The real question is, if the most advanced civilizations in human history across every continent and every era all independently concluded that we are not alone and never have been. What would it take for us to take that seriously? Well, we may be about to find out. If this series changed how you think about any of this, please share it. If you're new here and this is the first video you found, parts 1 and 2 are linked in the description. Start there. The full picture is worth seeing from the beginning, I promise. But thank you for watching. This is only beginning. I'm really glad I'm back on this channel posting new content. Subscribe and I will see you in the next one.